Erev Tov, one and all.
Erev Tov.
Shavua Tov, but we'll count it as Shabbat Shalom still.
Yeah.
And towards the end of our study, we'll get right into our Havdalah. And then we'll go into our Selichot service. So I'm pleased that you've joined us tonight, and welcome to you all. Bruchim Abaim. Nice to see you, Cantor Friedman. Nice to see you, Executive Director Sarah Beth Salzman. And nice to see everybody else here in the spirit of reflection, in the spirit of study. So as I mentioned online during Shabbat, we are going to partake for the first time in Mishkan Halev. This moment of pandemic, and more specifically quarantine, forces us to engage in this virtual way. We've got some practice so far, and so we kind of know what to do. But the moment has opened us up to new opportunities, and so typically we use a different set of prayers, a different prayer book, a Siddur for Selichot, but tonight we try a new one. So I thought we would spend some time familiarizing ourselves with the framework created by this prayer book's main editor, Rabbi Janet Martyr. And this will serve as a great introduction for not only our experience tonight, but our approach to the High Holy Days. So what I want to do is I want to take you through this introduction. It's a short essay, and I want to try and unpack it for you. And of course, as always, you can weigh in as well. I will ask you questions about things, could be in terms of clarifying what we're reading, but maybe even more importantly, it might open us up to some conversation about some of the deeper questions that are reflected here in the text. So, Sarah Beth, I'm going to give you first crack at this, since I don't know if you're staying with us the whole time or not.
I was hoping to. I'm just going to mute because dog background.
So then you get to read first.
Oh, wonderful.
Through this text here, Service of the Creator from the top, in the middle.
Okay, I'm just going to wave when there's a word I can't say. In the Middle Ages, in the Jewish villages of Europe, the Schalklofer, a Yiddish version of the town crier, would make its rounds from house to house, pounding on doors with a wooden mallet to gather a minyan for public prayer. But during the days of Selichot, Confessional Prayers that precede Hashanah, the door knocking happened at midnight. The mallet was shaped like a shofar. Loafer would have a special message for everyone on his route, men, women, and children alike. Israel, holy folk, awake, arouse yourself, and rise to the service of the Creator.
So wouldn't we be so lucky if we were in a situation where the Schulklopfer would run around to our houses and bang on our doors with a mallet?
We probably call the police.
Summoning us. Some guy is trying to vandalize my door.
Break our storm doors.
I guess that's a nice 21st century response to the Schulklopfer. But
we would go up with Rabbi Shulman for New Year's. He would have a person knock on everybody's door to wake us up in the mornings. Remember?
Right. No, during the retreat.
During the retreat.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes sense. All right. So you sort of understand this moment.
That was before they put in the clock radios.
That is fantastic. All right. Well, so then you get the gist here. Some of you, anyway. To a retreat where you had the equivalent of a Schulklopfer knocking on your door. By chance, dare I ask if they had mallets in their hands?
No.
They were mallets.
Sometimes they'd ring a bell. Sometimes they'd have a bell.
Well, so, but anyway, you can only imagine, right, being rousted out of a deep sleep, right, by somebody pounding on your door with a mallet and sort of summoning you to alertness. How well, overwhelming that might be, right?
Rabbi,
Yeah.
I would disagree in that most people would know Selichot is coming. They wouldn't be that deep asleep.
Okay, fine. Yeah, it's because they have a lot of stress of all the things they have to do Selichot prayers for. So they've been thinking, well, yes, maybe somebody who is spiritually awake. But here, what's interesting to me is this reading about, the town crier coming by and saying, hey, holy people, you got to wake up, arouse yourselves. Wake up to your best selves, your best service to God and the world. So we get into this next paragraph, and I know this this is what would happen for me. Cantor, will you read? Still aspiring.
Still aspiring to be holy folk, we rise tonight, as our ancestors did, to the service of our Creator. We are here not because of a knock at the door, but because at this season, our hearts begin to pound. An inner voice awakens us, and we feel summoned to this place of prayer and community.
So I want to ask you a question. Have you ever awoken in the middle of the night because of an errant alarm, like a fire alarm or your door alarm or a phone call in the middle of the night?
Yes.
And have you ever felt that sense of your heart pounding when you come out of that arousal? You're like, whoa. Have you ever felt your heart pound?
Mhm.
Maybe in fear, maybe in uncertainty, maybe in
anger.
maybe in anger. Did I actually hear something?
If it's the phone, you might be worried because why would somebody
Right.
call?
But there's this powerful notion of this moment and the call to awareness, the call to arousal that causes our hearts to pound. To me, this is a really interesting way to think about this moment, because it strikes me as a moment where our emotions rise, the adrenaline, physical and spiritual, pump, and we are summoned to a better place, or to put ourselves on a trajectory to that better place. We call it tshuva, to kind of turn ourselves to that place. So I want to ask you sort of the broader question, and it may be a personal question, so you don't have to share if you don't want to. But I'm curious, we are living in an age of pandemic. We are observing the Selichot after the anniversary of 9/11, talking about something that made our hearts pound fast. And certainly this pandemic has not only made hearts pound fast, but in some ways has stolen breath. If not ours, somebody we know, or just many people, 200,000 worth. So what at this point makes your heart pound as you make approach to the High Holy Days? I'm curious, because this kind of reflects the emotional power of this moment. So I'm kind of curious, taking the temperature. And you don't have to be totally personal. You can talk about what you think people are going through, if you'd like. And I don't really have the ability to see everybody because I have my screen up. So you may just have to chime in. Anybody have an answer to my question?
You can also raise your hand and I'll see you because I'm scrolling through your faces.
Okay. And
Well, some of us
you can alert me.
Is it up?
So at least I want you to think about this. Charlotte, please.
Yeah, I'm going to ask in the reverse of your question, because I have just moved. It's my second move within a year, coming from Florida, and I've moved from the breakers to self-help. And periodically, I have to stop myself and say, where is my commitment and emotional involvement with the world? I'm so preoccupied with the new place, the new people, and getting the house fixed. I don't have all my things here. But it struck me how maybe frequently people who are so caught up in their own lives, particularly those who have difficulty feeding their children, feeding themselves, working, paying rent, what life must be like. How can you respond to the outside world, to the needs of other people? I mean, I'm embarrassed for myself. So it helps me understand what goes on in the minds of the lack of social relatedness that has occurred.
Thank you. Thank you, Charlotte. What a powerful statement. I really appreciate your candor. And what I would like to say to you is that we are all summoned to what we call cheshbon hanefesh. And Rabbi Marge talks about that later in our essay here. Cheshbon hanefesh is a fundamental act of self-reflection and self-examination. We are summoned to look inward and to study our behavior, to study what makes us a good person, to study where we may have missed the mark. And so by nature, the High Holy Days are very much about this inward journey, this individual, introspective self-examination. So it's very easy for this moment in time to perpetuate anything that has already summoned our inward look and kept us from looking more broadly. I'd like to preview something I'm teaching about in a High Holy Day sermon, likely Rosh Hashanah morning. It's a reflection on the Akedah, the binding of Isaac, and it's a lesson I learned from Rabbi Shalman of blessed memory. The phraseology is not his, but the teaching for sure is. And the long and short of it is that Abraham hears 3 summons in the process of binding Isaac on the mountain, Mount Moriah. And one of those summons rouses him out of sound sleep. Another summons confronts him when he's in a very introspective place. Each time he says Hineni, but the third time, or one of the times that he says Hineni, he actually is, in a sense, responding to his child, who for the first time he's starting to pay attention to. And so there's this wonderful term called outrospection. I don't know if that's really a word, but it seems to be an antonym for introspection. So cheshbon hanefesh, and even the act of tefillah, which is about self-judgment, that's what it means. Hitpalel means to, it's a reflexive verb. It means to judge oneself. It seems like these High Holy Days are all about looking at our own behavior, and that makes total sense. We've been trained this way. We have plenty to work on. That is true. But one of the reasons we find ourselves having to do tshuva is, in fact, because we have stopped looking outside ourselves and haven't done as much in terms of acts of kindness or acts of empathy or acts of awareness of someone else's reality. And I think we're all in that boat in one way or another. That just as we are summoned to look within and improve what we can improve about ourselves, one of the things we could do is be more mindful about what's going outside ourselves. You know, how are we going to be a force for good to the world around us? One of the ways we're going to do that is by outrospection. We're going to pay attention to what's going on with other people. How many people feel like they could practice outrospection a little more than maybe they have?
I think I can.
I can. In other words, one might fall into the trap that the high holiday is all about you and me as individuals and what we have to do. That's not untrue. Cheshbon HaNefesh is a time-honored value. I think it's really important for us to stick with the work of Cheshbon HaNefesh. But it has to help us understand our responsibilities outside our own reality, a reality that's shaped by other people, a reality that's shaped in ways in which we have interacted, or because we've interacted in a certain way, we may have created a need for slichot, for forgiveness, created a need to do tshuva, to return repentantly. Okay. So, sometimes facing someone else and their pain and their suffering can definitely make a heart pound. So let's look at any other comments, by the way. All right. Let me move this up. Let me move this text up a little bit.
Adrian,
What does it mean for us? Let me invite Linda, please.
Okay. Okay. What does it mean for us, citizens of the 21st century, to serve our Creator? Are we conducting our lives in ways that are true to our highest values? Do we appreciate the gift of our lives? Do we too often squander that most precious of gifts and fail to live with purpose and gratitude? We ask questions like this on the threshold of a new year as we turn to traditions that guide us through Cheshbon HaNefesh, self-examination, and Tshuva, returning to the right path.
All right. So let me ask this question as a way of initiating some conversation. I like the first question. I'll leave it up to you to think about the other questions for your own Cheshbon HaNefesh and your own tshuva. But I am curious, as we think about interacting in a very 21st century way right here on Zoom, which has provided a reasonable, albeit virtual, reality for us to make such connections with one another. It's a facsimile. I know it's not the same as us being at 5959 North Sheridan, having a meaningful experience together. That I would prefer, but here we are. And we're making meaning. In some ways, it enables even more of us to participate. So there's some advantages here in the 21st century for our Jewish experience. In this particular case, in the midst of a pandemic, I think we're doing okay in this respect. But what does it mean for us as citizens of the 21st century to serve our Creator? What do you think has to happen? What do you think we can improve overall? You can speak individually. You can speak as a witness to society. I'll be happy to listen to anything you have to share. Knowledge.
We need the more we know, the better we can do the right thing and serve God, our Creator.
Yeah, I agree that knowledge in a particular form. From a Jewish perspective, we talk about Torah as Or HaTorah. How do we translate that?
Light of Torah.
The light of Torah.
Or
It
the
makes
light.
sense that the light of Torah fills us and enables our potential to be an Or LaGoyim. What does that mean? Or LaGoyim.
Light to the nations.
Right. So in order to be an Or LaGoyim, a light unto the nations, by the way, I take my cues here from Rabbi Felix Levy. We taught a lot about the power of light, particularly amidst unusual darkness. You'll hear me talk about this later, but Rabbi Levy lived through World War I, the Spanish flu, the Great Depression, World War II, the Shoah. That's a lot of darkness. That's a lot of darkness, and he's talking a lot about light and how we possess light. What is that light we possess? Or HaTorah, the knowledge of Torah's light. And that light that we take with us into the world. Even here in the 21st century, amidst a very dark time. It's our responsibility to shine that light into creation, into the world. All right, what else does it mean for us to serve our Creator?
Be compassionate to others.
If we're created B'Tselem Elohim in God's image, full of intrinsic worth, then that means that everybody we encounter has the same value, is worthy of respect, is worthy of compassion. And what is compassion ultimately? It's the actualization of one's empathy. Did you know that? That compassion is the action. It's the arm. It is the active process of empathy. And what then is empathy? Really, it's the way to understand emotionally, intellectually, what someone's going through. So when we talk about walking in another person's shoes, knowing what it feels like, feeling what it feels like, when we act compassionately, we are acting out of that empathy. This, by the way, is not my own definition, although it's a firm understanding for me. This is reflected in the expertise of psychologists who study empathy. What do you think, by the way, would happen if we were to summon more compassion, more empathy in these days? If we were to serve with greater empathy or greater compassion, as Lori suggests, what would the world look like? What would this particular world look like in the 21st century, the one that we're really living in?
I mean, if all of us, not just each of us.
All right, so there would be a collective commitment. We talk about it all the time. We at Emanuel, a collective force for good. Why don't I just say to each individual, essentially, be a force for good? I actually do say that in correspondence, but we can always imply a collective aspect to it.
Rabbi,
I'm giving you permission.
Rabbi,
Yeah.
there are some notes on the chat, on the group chat.
Okay, somebody's going to have to be my eyes on that.
I've got it up right now. So it said, in the 21st century, I feel that I want, this is Lucidna, I feel that I want to listen more, slow down, and have a grip on my inner thoughts.
Okay.
Jay
Let-
Rothenberg
Hang on,
says
hang on, hang on. Let's
self-awareness.
just finish the conversation about empathy and compassion. All right. So tell me, if we exercise more compassion, is this what we're talking about? We're going to bring more self-awareness to bear, that we're going to listen better, and slow down and
I'm just sitting on it.
listen to our inner thoughts and be non-judgmental? I mean, I just want to make sure that these are answers to that question.
Yes,
Fine.
because she adds, we would possibly be able to listen and hear God.
Okay. Very nice. Very nice. And we would also be able to cooperate with others.
Right, that's what Jay Rothenberg says.
Right. Right. So building off of Ruth's perspective and Jay's perspective, Nancy's perspective, we're not by ourselves. I mean, it may feel like there's a lot of existential loneliness in this pandemic, and it may be hard to interact in various ways. And I understand that. And I feel deeply about that. And I also know that there are ways for us to make certain choices about how we connect with others. And so when we talk about being Jewish at a time like this, when we talk about what our mission as Jews are or is at a time like this, we think about how our holidays set us up for success, particularly around this notion of communal connection. We talked about it in today's Torah portion, Atem Nitzavim. Is that singular or plural? You shall stand is what that means. That's Atem,
Plural.
the word Atem, is that singular or plural?
Plural.
It's plural. Second person plural. Atem Nitzavim, you shall stand, right? So it's everybody, leaders and followers, men and women, adults and children, people you know well, people you don't know at all, even people who don't even live in that moment, which means all of us are somehow included in this moment of connection and mutual responsibility. Today, we talked a lot about Klal Yisrael, which is a unity between people Israel. We've talked about Kol Yisrael Arvim Zeh Bazeh. All of us are responsible for one another. A sense of mutual responsibility. In a nation built on rugged individualism, I think it's really important for us to remember in the 21st century to be countercultural and to do whatever we can to make sure that individuals don't have to be so rugged all the time, don't have to carry on by themselves, that we have to find ways to stay connected. By the way, my greatest hope is that everybody in our congregation would have a job within the congregation, and that job would somehow empower them, enable them to be responsible for another person in the congregation, so that we could really live out this sense of mutual responsibility. What else?
Isn't that already true for parents?
Yeah, but I think, that's interesting. We were talking about empathy. Empathy is best practiced and often only practiced within people that we actually know really well and feel a particular commitment to, just because it's a child or it's a friend or it's someone within our particular religious community or someone within our particular race. It's when we start trying to practice empathy outside of our comfort zone, outside of our familiarity, where we're really tested, right? And that may seem obvious to you, but it's really important for us not only to make sure, for example, that our gift to our children is a religious school education. And as long as they show up, the gift is complete. I feel like there's more to it. I feel like when we're trying to build a sense of community, it's really important for not only adults, but children to get to know other people and to make sure that they feel at home, whether they know them or don't. That is absolutely something we can improve on. Not only at 5959 North Sheridan, but as a Jewish community globally. Tell me more. What else? There's got to be other things. So we have knowledge, we have compassion, we have non-judgmental communication, we have paying attention and careful listening to God and others, we have cooperation, self-awareness. Anything else to add to the list? Okay. Let's take the last paragraph. Ben, our sages.
Okay. Our sages taught that the divine presence dwells in the midst of joy and vitality, and they saw repentance as fundamental to our joy, a gift to humanity created even before the world itself. Judaism celebrates the possibility of self-renewal, and it sanctifies the acts of soul-searching, acknowledging error, and starting again. In that spirit of joyful self-improvement, we open our hearts to the days of awe.
All right. So it's interesting to me that our high holy days are really so somber and heavy. Yom Kippur more than Rosh Hashanah, but ironically, Yom Kippur wasn't always so heavy. There was a time long, long ago that it was more festive.
How can it be festive if you can't eat?
Well, look, herein lies what's interesting to me. So firstly, how was Yom Kippur observed in the earliest days? Anybody know?
Nope.
Essentially, a goat was taken to the priest, and that goat was then sent out into the wilderness, a scapegoat. And that was that. So I think that the Talmud seems to indicate that there was a way of engaging in Yom Kippur that led us to joy and vitality. And that's an interesting way to think about it, right? So now we fast and we wear white and we refrain from certain life-affirming practices, whether it's sex or it's even bathing. It's almost as if we're practicing for our death, which is the opposite of joy and vitality. So I find it really interesting here that not only are we looking at the high holy days as a basis for joy and vitality ultimately, but that tshuva, which the Talmud tells us is very part and parcel of the creation of life itself, right? It's part of this, one of the seven entities, it says here.
Rabbi,
Wait, Ben first, and then whoever else asked that question. Sarah Beth, I think. Ben, please.
I just wanted to say that it's Parsha Achrei Mot, which is in the book of Leviticus, where they mention what you were just mentioning, Rabbi.
Good, thank you for
We
that.
read about that.
All right, we'll turn to Achrei Mot for further study. Who had a question or comment?
this is Sarah Beth. I did, and I just wanted to let you know Ben had his hand raised. That's all. Would you address?
Gotcha. All right, so my question to you is maybe an odd one. What do you think will happen as a result of your high holy day practice this year? And what could you possibly see being a joyful and vital outcome of your high holy day experience? What joy are you hoping to achieve?
A vaccine?
Say again? Oh, vaccine. Well, that would definitely lend to vitality. Don't mean to be smart aleck.
I was kind of being smart aleck, but true. It's what I want.
Let's kind of turn it to, listen, I would take that. It's just sort of a fundamental wish, a fundamental desire. I think we would all like to see that the work of medical researchers, whoever invents these vaccines, that they get to it at due speed with something that is usable and safe. But I'm wondering about our own personal efforts.
Rabbi, if I may, I think joy comes from two places. I think it comes from self-discovery. And I also think it comes from the ability to clean a slate, to return to God and to say, that missed the mark, but I have another chance to do it right. I have a chance to make it better. And that's where the joy for me comes from.
Okay. What is it about that process of cleaning the slate? What is it that ultimately ends up being a joyful outcome?
Relieves you of a burden.
Okay. So, but tell me more about that, because I might say that what we feel when we've relieved a burden is relieved.
Yeah.
And so that's a plenty good feeling. Trying to pin down why joy is, well, let's put it this way. Why is being relieved so fundamental to our joy?
Because it gives you the opportunity to see the situation from a different point of view, and maybe you can grow from it.
Okay. So the widening of one's perspective, the personal growth that comes from the widening of that perspective, that outrospection, recognizing that what you do maybe helps somebody else feel better about an interaction you had that hurt them.
Yeah.
Could, at least if it doesn't create joy, and I'm not suggesting that these things just automatically make you happy, but it may pave the way, may open things up, right? Because if you're feeling guilty, right? If I'm feeling guilty about something, I'm going to find it hard to be authentically happy. That makes sense?
Yes.
Why might that be? Somebody who can offer me some spiritual counseling here. If I'm feeling guilty, or I'm feeling culpable, or I'm feeling like I didn't do my very best, right? Feeling like I broke some moral code, I wasn't honest, or I wasn't loving, or I wasn't compassionate.
Because if that's in the back of your head and you're trying to start anew, you can't, because that's blocking it. And what you're putting out is not real sincere, because it's blocked by that feeling of guilt.
Okay. So like that sincerity is really like a key to our authenticity. And if our authenticity suggests that we have things that we're hiding from ourselves or others, we may punish ourselves, or we may find it hard to open our hearts in a joyful way. And we may even find our impossible to be self-forgiving, and therefore not be forgivable by others.
Yeah.
What is, one sec, Charlotte, the idea that teshuvah is woven into the very creation of the world suggests what about God's view of humanity?
That we're not perfect.
Yeah.
We make mistakes.
We're not perfect. We make mistakes, and we're going to have a process that's very natural to our own humanity by which we turn ourselves around. We're going to have cheshbon nefesh, self-examination. We're going to have prayer, lehit palel, to look within. We're going to have tshuva, which means getting back on the right path. And fundamentally, it seems to suggest there's forgiveness alongside of that, at least from God. We can't be human without making our mistakes and getting in the way of our own happiness. God understands that from the outset of creation and puts processes in place like tshuva to help us sort out our business so that we can clean the slate, as Cantor says, and open up the pathway for greater joy and life affirmation. Charlotte, please.
I'm going to say somewhat of what you have said, but
A little louder.
I find this passage fascinating in terms of the recognition of the contradictory behaviors and emotions that we all live with, and the brilliance, I think, that the Torah has presented us with life. We have both love and hate. We have both inside and outside. There's constant recognition of that there are these both elements that run through us. We are selfish, but we are loving and giving. We hate and we love. And so far, the whole Torah, I think, reflects this. We go to war and kill, and we talk of redemption. And I think it is possible, by the way, guilt that goes too far interferes with our functioning. But an element of guilt is very important, because without guilt, we're not able to recognize our behavior, in a sense, our destructive, self-destructive and destructive behavior to others.
Right.
There is always a balance.
So look, just as guilt can keep us out in the wilderness,
Repeat what she said, because most of us couldn't hear.
I'm not going to be able to. So what I am going to say, though, Lori, is that it would appear, Charlotte, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I'm glad that the volume seemed to expand a little bit. It was easier to hear. But I would say that we are a walking contradiction as human beings.
Yeah.
Right? We are in one breath redeemable.
Yes.
And in another breath, mind-numbingly exasperating.
Right.
Perhaps seemingly beyond redemption. And the High Holy Days come along, and I think they embrace that complexity. Right? We're going to have a Havdalah service in a moment that reflects the duality that exists, light and darkness. We embody that light, we embody that darkness. We have a Yetzer HaTov, an inclination for good. We have a Yetzer Hara, an inclination for evil. Both inside us, both in battle, almost all the time. And these days come to give us a chance to figure out, how are we making it through that war? Now, yes, guilt does signal a certain amount of remorse, certain amount of self-awareness that we have done wrong, that we've hurt others, that we have yet to do the tshuva necessary to return ourselves to the very best of our abilities and being. And so I think the proper amount of guilt is good, right? It's why we have lihitpalel. Lihitpalel means to judge oneself. That sounds fairly strict, doesn't it? Now, it can also be intimidating, and we might be too disciplined and too guilty to the point where it paralyzes us. One of the reasons I like the idea that something like tshuva is woven into the very fabric of the universe is that it makes it natural to act toward tshuva. That's just the way it is. We're human beings. Get used to doing tshuva. By the way, how many times a year do we officially think about tshuva? Just the 10 days of awe? No.
No.
In our daily Amidah, is there a blessing about tshuva? Yes. Is there a blessing about slicha, about forgiveness? Yes. So, we don't really encounter that daily Amidah much as a community. We may as individuals here and there, I would say, you know. depending on, how you like to pray. But the bottom line is that not only is tshuva and slicha, by the way, and forgiveness, these are both woven into the very fabric of creation, which makes them very natural acts and processes in our lives. And it's so normal, right, that we can pray daily, other than on Shabbat, interestingly. Only on Shabbat we don't have to do, these, this Amidah. We just focus on all the good stuff on Shabbat. So this was a good segue that you built for us, Charlotte. The next text I'd like to invite us to take a quick look at anyway, because we're going to have to get to our Havdalah very soon. But it would be useful to, let's take a look and see if there's any additions in the chat box before we move on.
Just one from Jay.
Yeah, so Jay, you speak of resolving conflicts, uncertainties, improved behavior toward others with whom I disagree, sense of renewal. Can you unpack that for us a little bit, Jay?
It's an opportunity for repair, for self-introspection, to see what can be improved upon in the next year.
Right, okay. Tshuva and the high holy days. Yes. Resolution. What does resolution mean? Completion. You've solved something. You've made real progress. Either you know more about what you were uncertain. You improve whatever behavior you fell short on. You learn to interact with somebody with whom you disagree. Maybe you learn more as a result. So,
perhaps looking at the dark side of things, but as one ages, one thinks of the clock of one's life. And I think, for example, sometimes that mine is reading 10 minutes of midnight, so I'd best get going at doing the things that I should be doing all along.
Yeah. Yeah, well, yeah. There's a sense that time is moving forward, and that the limit of time in our lives, we don't live forever, becomes a kind of a box of creativity for us. Right? Whatever it is we need to do, to exercise greater moral imagination, to be more creative in how we build a stronger sense of commitment to one another. What do we need to do to turn ourselves around, right? We don't have forever to do it. I wanted to, as a last text, look at a Marge Piercy poem. And I'm going to read it. I want you to listen carefully. I found Charlotte's comment to be a useful segue into this poem. And I want to try and see if you can detect why that might be. Coming up on September, white butterflies with single black finger paint eyes on their wings dart and settle, eddy and mate over the green tangle of vines in Labor Day morning steam. The year grinds into ripeness and rot, grapes darkening, pears yellowing, the first Virginia creeper twining crimson, the grasses dry straw to burn. The new year rises, beckoning across the umbrellas of the sand. I begin to reconsider my life. What is the yield of my impatience? What is the fruit of my resolve? I turn from frantic white dance over the jungle of productivity, and slowly a lagoon slides, cold water down my throat. I rest on a leaf spotted red. Now is the time to let the mind search backwards, like the raven loose to see what can feed us now. The time to cast the mind forward, to chart an aerial map of the months. The new year is a great door that stands across the evening, and Yom Kippur is the second door. Between them are song and silence, stone and clay pot to be filled from within myself. I will find there both ripeness and rot, what I have done and undone, what I must let go with the waning days, and what I must take in. With the last tomatoes, we harvest the fruit of our lives.
Every year.
So, what part of the year do we celebrate Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur?
Well,
In the fall. Do you get a sense of the fall in this poem?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
yes.
All right. And then, of course, what comes after the fall? I know it's a pedestrian question, but
Winter.
point, winter, right? Do you see signs of winter coming in this poem? Changing color is a sign of winter coming.
Yeah.
Well,
Why?
it's actually fall. To me, that's a sign of fall.
I understand, but listen to my question, Linda. The poem reflects, among other things, changing color. Changing color marks the fall, but it also marks the coming of winter. Why?
Because the changing color of the leaves, they're going to die.
They are.
Yeah.
They are. Do we have a lot of leaves hanging on trees in the winter?
No.
If you're in Los Angeles, maybe,
Or Florida.
or Florida. All right, but where it is cold enough for those leaves to not only change color, but to desiccate and fall from the trees are bare in the winter.
When it says there, now is a time to let the mind search backwards. And then it says, now is a time to cast the mind forward, meaning from fall, you go into winter. And then it says the aerial map of the months. So it's looking at the months ahead.
That's right. It's ironic to me, right? Because we celebrate our Rosh Hashanah and our Yom Kippur, which are moments of renewal. Not only renewal of the earth, but renewal of our souls. And when do we do this? Not in the spring.
And that's true in Australia.
Fine. You'll pardon my chauvinism, my Northern Hemisphere chauvinism. We celebrate our becoming, our renewal, in the context of death, right? So whether Yom Kippur, which is symbolic of our mortality, or the coming winter, also symbolic of our mortality or nature's mortality. You would think there'd be more creative times to be thinking about the renewal of our souls, and yet here we are thinking about that in the most vulnerable part of the year, as far as vitality.
It's really a good time to be doing that, though, because just like COVID, winter is very much like that. You have more time to sit and contemplate.
Yes. Is that Kitty?
Yeah, hi, how you doing?
Hi, Kitty. Good to see you.
Thanks.
Good to see you. That's a great, yeah, well, yeah. I mean, why not? I mean, listen, I wonder what's going to be like as we try to make sense of our lives and seek meaning and purpose during this pandemic as the winter approaches, where we have a little bit more experience being stuck at home. I'm not saying it's just a simple thing, and I don't mean to oversimplify things for anyone. But I wonder if we'll have the ability to be more self-reflective and more committed to our own personal growth. I'm not saying we haven't to this point, but we have practice, right? Because the weather sometimes is harsh enough that we don't go outside and we learn how to live with, that sense of disconnection because, well, it's cold out. But here we focus on the power to grow and evolve and change, to forgive, to do tshuva, to renew our souls, to repair our souls, to help the world get better. And we do so in this context of nature waning, life waning. Maybe it summons, like Jay was saying, a greater creativity, a greater urgency. And by the way, when things are urgent, do our hearts start to pound a little more? The adrenaline flow a little faster? Yes. But to Charlotte's point about the duality of things, just want to point out that I think what makes the High Holy Days so special is their placement, not in the first month of the year, which is in spring, I'm talking about Hebrew months, right? What's the first month of the Jewish year? It's a trick question.
Is it Nisan?
What's that?
Is it Nisan?
Yeah, right? I mean, it's the secular year is really what I mean. So from a secular standpoint, the Jewish year starts in spring. There's numerous New Years, by the way. There's 4 of them. Tu B'Shvat is a New Year's. Right? And of course, Rosh Hashanah is our spiritual New Year. But I find it really interesting that our spiritual New Year happens in the fall. Now, I think what we can't forget here is that the fall still seems very vibrant, doesn't it? In fact, for some of us, it's a favorite season because it's so beautiful. And even though things are dying, they're full of color, even more color than before. We're looking at leaves in particular. And frankly, what can be more life-giving than a tree? Right? I mean, we're dependent on trees to breathe.
8 o'clock.
Is it 8 already?
That was my computer, sorry.
Well, no, that was useful. You gave me a time check.
Okay.
So my hope here is that we understand that we live in a world where there's light and dark, and that we are fighting good and evil within our own bodies and collectively as a society. And that we miss the mark because of not managing the duality well. Miss the mark. Instead of being kind, we're mean-spirited. When instead of being honest, we are dishonest. When instead of being empathic or compassionate, we're selfish. We're capable of all that, aren't we?
Mm-hmm.
The good and the bad. And so we come together during this time of year where the leaves are changing, reminding us that there's plenty of vital color left. We can embrace that in our lives, but we also have to work urgently because life doesn't go on forever. Case in point, these leaves that are changing, beautiful, but dying. And so can we be creative, morally, ethically? Can we do the creative work of cheshbon hanefesh? Can we be outrospective and compassionate toward others? This is the time to think about that. This is the time to feel motivated. So much so it gets our adrenaline, literally or spiritually, going. Maybe even makes our hearts pound. But it means you care if your heart's pounding. You feel it. You feel it. And so I pray that we all have a deeply feeling and deeply compassionate High Holy Day season for ourselves, for others. And I think we'll grow, right? Even as the season wanes towards winter, we'll still grow and we'll still live fully, even through winter and beyond. thoughts, questions before we do Havdalah? All right. Cantor, do you have the candle?
I have all of my stuff right here, Rabbi. I just need to pause for one moment before we have Havdalah, if that's okay, for a bio break.
Yeah, that's fine. We can take just a second break. I need to get my my gear ready, and just talks amongst yourselves.
Hi,
Wait,
Adrian.
Rabbi, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Shelley put on the chat, who knows what the fourth New Year's is? One is a Rosh Hashanah, Tu B'Shvat, Nisan. What's the fourth one?
Well, one is the King's New Year, which is a tax day.
Oh.
So, and I don't remember exactly if that's the first of Nisan.
Oh.
You can always ask Rabbi Google.
It's like a cliffhanger.
I always forget, I must confess, I always forget the fourth one. I just know there are 4 ones.
Maybe she does too, and this is her way of asking what it is.
Fourth one is Elul, first of Elul.
Ah.
Oh, yes.
Tithing for taxes.
Oh, so
there you go.
Rabbi, that's what you mentioned. Okay, thank you.
That's true. That's true.
That's
Very
true.
nice. Very nice. All righty. Let me get the guitar.
Okay. Get my
So
accoutrement.
actually, need to find. All right. So we are going to turn. This is going to be fun. Watch this. Oh. Aha! Cantor. As soon as I get my guitar. Are you back, Cantor?
I'm here.
All right. What happened to Yedid Nefesh?
Uh-oh, what'd you do with
Oh, here
Yedid?
it is, right here, 97. That's what we need. Okay, hang on.
Okay, we got the wine.
All right. All right. So we'll begin with Yedid Nefesh to enter into our Selichot experience. Follow it with Havdalah.
Yedid nefesh av harachman, Yedid nefesh av harachman, Mashach avdecha, el retzonecha, Mashach avdecha, la 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 la, el retzonecha. Yarut avdecha, kimo ayal, yishtachave, la la la, la 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 la, el mul hadarecha. Yerav lo, yididutacha, minofet suf, la la la, la 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 la, v'chol tam.
Okay. All righty. Cantor, let us get the ritual items in motion here, and we will go right to the blessings.
Absolutely, lighting up my Havdalah candle as we speak.
Yai lai la 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 lai lai. Yai la 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 lai lai. Ya la lai ya lai lai. Ya la lai lai ya la lai. Yai yai la 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 lai lai. Yai la 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 lai lai. Ya la lai ya lai lai. Ya la lai lai ya la lai. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen borei peri hagafen Yai lai la 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 Yai la 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 Ya la la, ya la la, ya la la la, ya la la. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei minei v'samim borei minei v'samim Yai yai la 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 yai la 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 ya la la ya la la ya la 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 ya la la Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei meorei ha'esh borei meorei ha'esh Yai yai la 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 Yai la 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 Ya la la ya la la Ya la 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 ya la la Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Hamavdil ben Kodesh lechol Hamavdil ben Kodesh lechol Hamavdil ben Kodesh lechol Chatotenu yimchol Zareinu v'chasbenu Yarbei kachol V'chakochavim b'layla Shavua tov, 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 Shavua tov. A good week, a week of peace. May gladness reign and joy increase. A good week, a week of peace. May gladness reign and joy increase. Eliyahu Hanavi, Eliyahu Hatishbi, Eliyahu, Eliyahu, Eliyahu Hagiladi, Bimhera ve'amenu, Yavo Elenu, Imashiach ben David, Imashiach ben David, Eliyahu Hanavi, Eliyahu Hatishbi, Eliyahu Eliyahu, Eliyahu, Eliyahu Agila Di. All right. Shavua Tov to one and all. May this week be a good one and a sweet one and one filled with light. And may we use these last days of Elul to prepare our hearts, to summon our capacity for tshuva, for return, and for slicha, for forgiveness. All right. Let us go to 104. Cantor.
Hashivenu, Hashivenu, Adonai Elaha, v'nashua, v'nashua, Chadesh, Chadesh, Yamenu Kekedem.
God does not want us. God does not want to be believed in, to be debated and defended by us, but simply to be realized through us. Martin Buber. Last sliver of the moon, the waning crescent, small and slender, growing in the east. At the end of the journey, a curve of silver barely there that fades away with the dawn. Faintest light the eye can discern, like the soul within me, barely there, waning and weary as the year winds down. At the end of the journey, the old moon flickers out and darkness awaits the new. Now in the stillness, we can feel it being born. Remind us, the horizon will be bright again. The waxing crescent will rise, heal our hearts, gather us in from the darkness, restore the light within us. I can't think of a more appropriate reading for this moment. And I feel like we did a good job at realizing and reflecting and embracing this complex reality that ultimately will lead us to a place of wholeness. And I pray the joy we spoke of. Light is sown for the righteous, radiance and joy for the pure heart. Cantor.
Oh, Saru el Tzadik, Hu Yisrael lev simcha, Hu Yisrael lev simcha. Oh, Saru el Tzadik, Hu Yisrael lev simcha, Hu Yisrael lev simcha. Oh, Saru el Tzadik. Yisrael simcha.
Shar kochech. So, Cantor, you know whose favorite Kianu Omecha is?
I'm so glad you brought that up, Rabbi, because I have heard quite a few times about how not only is this somebody's favorite, but that a certain setting must be done, or my name is mud.
Will always be Cantor Friedman to me, but
thank you very much.
It. But I want everybody to say hello to Sam.
Hi, Sam.
Hi,
Sam,
Sam.
say hi to everybody.
Yes, we are. Hello, Hineni.
You are Hineni. Very good. Very good. We're going to do Kianu Amecha, Sam.
Down the hill when you sing that, sweet.
All right. Let's sing.
Right. The sweat. Oy. Yanu Amaha Ve'ata Eloheinu Anu Vanacha Ve'ata Avinu Anu Avdecha Ve'ata Adonenu Anu Kahalecha Ve'ata Elkenu Anu Nachalatecha Ve'ata Goralenu Anu Tzonecha Ve'ata Ro'enu Anu Karmecha Ve'ata Notreinu Anu Pe'ulatecha Ve'ata Yotreinu Anu Rayatecha Ve'ata Dodenu Anu Segulatecha Ve'ata Kiroveinu Anu Amecha Ve'ata Malkeinu Anu Ma'amirecha Ve'ata Ma'amire.
I think Sammy's calling for an encore, Shelley. He said, well done.
It was for you, Sam.
All right. He said, thank you, Shelley.
You're welcome.
Through your sins, though your sins are like scarlet, they shall turn white as snow. Help us to serve you truly with purity of heart.
Adonai, Harachum v'hanun, Erech Hapayim, V'rav Chesed Ve'emet, Notzer Chesed la'alafim, Noser avon v'fesha, Noser avon v'fesha, V'chata v'naket.
Adonai, Adonai, God compassionate, gracious, endlessly patient, loving, and true, showing mercy to the 1000th generation, forgiving evil, defiance, and wrongdoing, granting pardon. Continue with our confessional prayers.
Ashamnu,
Shanu,
Bagadnu,
Bagadnu,
Gazalnu,
Gazalnu,
Dabarnu Dofi,
Dimbarnu Topi,
Lai 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 lai, ya lai 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 lai, lai 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 lai, He'evinu,
Evinu,
Vehirshanu,
Behir Shanu,
Danu,
Adnu.
Hamasnu.
Hamasnu.
Tefalnu shaker. Sorry. Tefalnu shaker.
Tefalnu sheker.
Lai 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 Ya'atnu ra
Ya'atnu ra.
Kizavnu
Kizavnu.
Latnu
Latnu.
Maradnu
Maradnu.
Ni'atnu
Ni'atnu.
Sararnu
Sararnu.
Avinu
Avinu.
Hashanu
Shanu.
Sararnu
Sararnu.
Yishinu Oref
Kichinu Oref.
Lai 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 Rashanu
Rashanu.
Shichatnu
Shichanu.
Ti'avnu
Ti'avnu.
Ta'inu
Ta'inu.
Titanu
Titanu.
Lai 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 lai.
We abused and abandoned. We acted without thinking. We blamed others when we failed. We boasted and belittled. We coveted and corrupted. We coerced the weak to do our will. We drove away those we loved with silence. We deceived and denied. We enticed and enslaved. We exalted money and material goods. We fouled air, sea, and land. We flattered and falsified. We gravitated to those who gossip. We gave up our ideals and gave in to their impulses, our impulses. We hated and humiliated. We held grudges and refused to forgive. We ignored and idolized. We insisted that we were right. We judged others rashly and wrongly. We were jealous and unjust. We stray and we sin when we fail to make peace the highest good, when we are silent in the face of evil, when we forsake those who suffer far away, when we shun the wronged and destitute among us, when we diminish God's image through violence or indifference, and when we fail to take care of those who depend on us, when we engage in slander or deceit, and when we distort the truth for personal gain, when we judge others rashly or unfairly, and when we stoke the fires of communal strife, when we fail to embrace Torah, the tree of life, to walk its paths and make its ways our own, we stray and we sin when we offer no blessings, no words of thanks for the breath within us and for the wonder of being. Cantor Friedman.
Kulam elo aslichot salach lanu mechalanu kaper lanu.
For all these failures of judgment and will, God of forgiveness, forgive us, pardon us, and lead us to atonement. Continue with Shema Kolenu.
Shema Kolenu, Adonai Eloheinu, Husverachem Aleinu, Aleinu, Berachamim, Berachamim, Uvratzon, Et Filateinu. Hashivenu Adonai Elaha, Hashivenu Elecha v'nashua, Hadei Shameinu, Yameinu Kekedem.
Surely this mitzvah is not too baffling for you, nor is it beyond reach. It is very close to you in your mouth and in your heart. Sound very familiar? Today's Torah portion. You shall not threaten the rights of the stranger or orphan. You shall not take a widow's garment in pawn. Remember that you were a slave in Egypt. Justice, justice shall you pursue, that you may live to inherit the land that Adonai your God gives you. You must not remain indifferent. Keep and heed all that I instruct you. Thus it will go well with you and your children after you for all time. This mitzvah is very close to you, in your mouth and in your heart. When you reap the harvest in your field and overlook a sheaf, it shall go to the stranger, the orphan, and the widow. You must not remain indifferent. Life and death I have set before you, blessing and curse. Choose life so that you and your children may live. Blessed shall you be in your comings, and blessed shall you be in your goings. You must not remain indifferent. Forgive us, Avinu, we have sinned. Pardon us, Malkeinu, we have transgressed. For you are the one who pardons and forgives. Or maybe it's this way. Forgive us, Avinu, pardon us, Malkeinu. And God replies, no, it's you. You are the one who must pardon and forgive. Forgive the ones around you. You're wasting precious time. Forgive your parents. They did the best they could. Forgive the one who betrayed you. Let go of anger and move on. Forgive yourself for your own imperfection. Avinu Malkeinu, almighty and merciful, we come before you without pretense. Avinu Malkeinu, we are reaching towards you. Help us to find you. Avinu Malkeinu, strengthen us for the holy days that lie ahead. Avinu Malkeinu, be with us as we strive to heal ourselves and become whole. Avinu Malkeinu, help us to repair a broken world. Avinu Malkeinu, hasten for us the days of redemption. Cantor, please.
Avinu Malkeinu, Chonenu va'anenu. Avinu Malkeinu, Chonenu va'anenu, ki ein banu masim. Hasei imanu, tzedakah v'chesed. Hasei imanu, tzedakah v'chesed, v'hoshi'enu. Avinu Malkeinu, Chonenu va'anenu. Avinu Malkeinu, Chonenu va'anenu, ki ein banu masim.
We're going to continue with a moment of silent meditation as you reflect on the power of this Selichot moment and the work ahead for Slicha, forgiveness, the work ahead for Teshuvah, for turning to our better selves, for the work of redemption and renewal that lies ahead, for reconnection with God and with one another in real space or in virtual space. Then we'll continue with some words from Psalm 27, and then Cantor, you'll call the Tekiah Godola, and we'll blow the shofar. Take a moment for your own meditations. Of David, the Eternal is my light and my help. Whom should I fear? God is the stronghold of my life. Whom should I dread? One thing I ask of the Eternal, only that do I seek, to live in the house of the Eternal all the days of my life, to gaze upon the beauty of God, to frequent God's temple. God will shelter me in the divine pavilion on an evil day. Grant me the protection of God's tent. Raise me high upon a rock. Hear, O Eternal, when I cry aloud, have mercy upon me and answer me. Do not hide your face from me. Do not thrust aside your servant in anger. You have been my help forever. Do not forsake me. Do not abandon me, O God, my deliverer. Show me your way, O Eternal, and lead me on a level path because of my watchful foes. Look to the Eternal, be strong and of good courage. Oh, look to God.
Tekiah Gedolah.
Shavua Tov, one and all. Thank you for joining us. It was good to study with you and to reflect with you and to search with you. And then it was really great to pray with you and to prepare with you for our Yamim Naraim, our days of awe. May they fill us with purpose and renewal, sweetness and joy, but resolve, forgiveness, and the will to do tshuva. And may it draw us close to our very best selves and to our God and to one another. I wish more in real space, but at the very least in virtual space. So thank you very much. Cantor, anything?
No, I'm very grateful though to see all of your faces. It's quite lovely to not know you're back in YouTube land somewhere, but to actually see you is really strengthened me. So thank you, and thank you, Rabbi, for the amazing study tonight.
Thank you, Rabbi.
My pleasure, Lori, everybody. So thank you, Cantor. Thank you, one and all. So I do urge you to participate tomorrow in our tech prep rally, our tech and prep rally. Have you ever thought of such a thing could happen before the High Holy Days? Tech and prep.
Yes, but not with us.
Well, so anyway, it's at 4 p.m. tomorrow, and anybody a little, any mysteries regarding how to connect with that, or we'll sort that out while you're online.
Can we get it later if we can't do it at that time?
Yes, it will be recorded.
All right, great.
And
Rabbi, for the holy days, for the service, will that be on YouTube or will that be Zoom?
it will be on YouTube. So here's how it works. The service blocks, the service will premiere at the times indicated in the schedule. It won't happen before, it'll happen at that time. So you can, you know, sit peeled to the computer or television with your popcorn. Not on Yom Kippur, of course. You'll have to do something else. Of course, I don't think anyone will see you. So, you know, you're on your own.
Right.
I don't mean that as a tease. I wish we weren't all on our own in a sense.
Right, right.
You get my, you do what you need to do in your home to make the high holidays meaningful. But we will present the service, and then things will play. And then, you know, if you need to step away and you miss something, or you just rather watch it later, you have that opportunity. Just go to our YouTube page, 5959online.org, and you will be able to watch, you know, Cantor or the Rabbi preach. You could watch it 100 times if you like.
1,000. It doesn't cost extra.
Rabbi and Cantor, will there be, in case, like, I'm going to do the thing at 4 o'clock, but what happens next week if something goes wrong and you can't get on? Will there be some kind of number or someplace where you could call to get help so that you can get on to the service?
So Sandy, remember that even if you can't get on at that moment, if it takes you a little extra to get on, it's still there. It's not going to go anywhere. So I know that might not feel 1,000%.
No, that doesn't feel very secure, but okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We will have a discussion about who will be on the hotline.
Thank you.
And at the very least, what we'll have to figure out is who can be on the hotline and whether, you know, they'll know enough about what to tell you to solve whatever issue you have. Because, you know, obviously we're not going to be able to.
I haven't had too many issues getting on. It's just that when everybody gets on at the same time, that's when I know other people have a hard time. And we make it like 5-10 minutes after, 20 minutes after the service. So that's it. Thank you.
I believe, Sandy, that even though it's premiering, I mean, maybe I'm not right. You would click on it and it still would be at the beginning for you. Isn't that right, Rabbi? It's not like
that is precisely correct.
So even if you're 20 minutes late, if you click on it, it's like it starts just then.
Oh, so it's not live. It's
all. No. So don't stress.
Oh, so it's not a live service. It's a pre-recording service.
Yes.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Well, you know, you have to
worked
remember, right?
tirelessly throughout the summer. Cantor will vouch.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you, Amy Guth, David Rakowski, a number of you who are here on this during our service, Ruthie and Devorah and others. I'm sure I'm not seeing everybody on this call. So, I congratulate all of you who have participated in the pre-production. I would not be too concerned about what you will see because it will only inspire you, seems to me. I know it's easy for me to say as the rabbi how you know, of course I'm going to think it's great, but I really do. I think it's unique. It's uniquely powerful because of the way in which we are expressing our high holiday experience. And so the good news is with the pre-production, and it's one of the reasons we did this, is that no one has to worry about having a hard time connecting or coming late. As long as you get to your computer, you can watch it in its entirety.
But you're watching it by yourself, so you don't have any feeling that there's other people with you watching the service. Is that the way it goes?
I wouldn't think of it that way. I mean, I will be sitting with my family. This moment has empowered me, enabled me to actually do something very unique for me as your rabbi, right? I'll be sitting with my relatives. Now, obviously, if you're sheltering alone, it's a different story.
Okay.
However, only from a technical standpoint, you will be able to participate in it with others and be able to write comments in the chat box if you like. And, Sandy, I know you have written things in the chat box. So there will be a way for you to encounter others in the experience.
Okay. Whatever.
And look,
Rabbi?
I'd love to apologize for all the things I can't control. This is clearly one of them. And so, by the way, we are doing a live service for the second day of Rosh Hashanah.
Oh, okay.
And we've got a proper sermon, and it's just like this, basically. Although I think we may be pushing it through YouTube. So, but it will be like Shabbat, basically.
Yeah.
Rabbi, I don't think that there's anything to apologize for. I'm so proud of the way that we have innovated in a time that is really challenging. And I will also say that the way that we did this made it safe for me to sing with my choir and for me to do the songs that mean, for me, the high holidays, and I think for a lot of people. So, when we do the YouTube experience at home, there's no piano, would be no choir. Some of the songs that we love and think of and sing together as a congregation, we wouldn't be able to do. So we worked extremely hard. Is it perfect? Nothing is. Really, the only perfect thing would be us hugging and being together. But
I agree with that. Thank you very much. I miss being able to see everybody and hug.
Right.
For sure. And that's the challenge of pandemic, isn't it? But I am quite proud of what we've done. And I'm very proud of you, Rabbi, for allowing us the vision to make it happen. And so apologies are not needed. I think that us being together in this way, though not ideal, can still be meaningful.
Thank you, Cantor. I appreciate that. And I realize that, we have, I think, answered the bell here and done everything we can to create a meaningful experience, however much a facsimile it may be to the real thing. It will move you and inspire you, and we will be proud of our community, and we will be set on our way towards a very positive year, buoyed by the inspiration we draw from these high holy day moments. Now, it does occur to me, Sandy and others, that perhaps what we should do is encourage you and anybody else, to have a buddy or two with whom you'll be on at the same time. You should agree to be on, whether at the very beginning or you want to watch it in the afternoon and sleep in. I would maybe call a friend or two and be a part of the experience together.
I have a question. It's Adrian. Is there a blessing for Tashlik? Because I plan to walk across the street to the lake afterward and have my own little ceremony and throw some challah in the water.
Adrian, we will send you something. How does that sound?
Okay. I hope I don't get arrested for feeding the geese or whatever. I don't know, but that's what I intend to do.
Well,
By the way,
we can
bail
evict
you out if you are.
Yeah. Make Cantor or me your first call. Don't call the attorney. Call us.
I'm going to say something because I'm not paid staff or anything like that. I just think that what we've done for the High Holy Day services is pretty remarkable. And I think we owe a lot to Amy and to David Rakowski. and all the people who recorded stuff for us, and thank you very much. And I think that our clergy has been amazing, and
Yes.
thank you all for stepping up and doing what you've done.
Absolutely.
And it seems that the clergy, for once, won't be totally exhausted.
We're already there, Katie.
I always feel bad for you guys, always.
God bless you.
Aw.
God bless you. If we could just a little bit of confession here, we're already there. So the high holidays actually will allow us to rest for a change.
Okay, good.
Whatever it is, it'll be fine.
It's gonna be
I
great.
think it's going to be better than fine.
It's gonna be remarkable.
Rabbi and I worked our tushies off to make it better than fine.
Yeah. well,
Absolutely.
And
I'm
I
looking
just-
forward to it.
I was gonna say, I just want to say, I think that the congregation during COVID and the services have been spectacular, period.
Yeah, absolutely. You've
I've
held
enjoyed
us
them.
together.
Right.
We are pleased to serve you. And if well, it looks like I'm unstable here. Internet connection unstable. Can you hear me?
Yep,
Yeah.
Yes.
You're fine.
I was unstable there for a moment.
I won't tell.
My internet connection was. We talk about, how do we serve our Creator in the 21st century? Cantor and I and our entire staff really have spent countless amounts of time with our lay leaders and with each of you in a way, trying to figure out how do we best serve a community in the 21st century, one that is saddled with pandemic. We just try to be creative and adjust and renew and redefine. And it's been a very creative time. Now, that doesn't take away from the complexities of the moment, nor does it make it easy to cope with all the loss and the disconnection and the dislocation. But I do feel good that we have tried everything we can to step into that breach and to be contemporary, because the moment has called us to be really clever and creative. So that is a positive. It's not a silver lining. Don't get me wrong. It's not a silver lining, but it is a blessing, right? Lo bashamayim he wasn't in heaven. It was in our own hands. So yes.
We are very lucky in that we can use technology on Shabbat. I have a number of friends who have not been able to, and for them it's very hard to say Kaddish or whatever. So thank you for giving us the opportunity to do what we need to do.
Yes.
Yes.
And incidentally, if there's any sort of piece of the High Holy Day experience that someone truly feels disconnected from because of technology and maybe limitations, we'll find a way to serve you. Phone call, you name it. Just please communicate. Don't assume that we can know every last thing. It's true now. We just need to communicate. Let us know how you're doing. And I definitely suggest everybody have a buddy. So if in case you're in a position where you're going to be doing this on your own and that's of concern to you, maybe feeling a little disconnected, I certainly feel deeply about that. Let's make sure you have a buddy. If you can't find one, we'll find you one.
Okay.
Just let us know. Okay?
Thank
All
you.
right. Well,
I have to get up early tomorrow for the drive through.
You do too.
all
Drive,
is well.
not drive by, drive through.
All right.
Okay.
All right, friends. Blessings. Sam, say goodnight.
Good night, Sam.
Night,
Good night, Sammy.
Good night, Sammy.
Good night, Sam.
Good night, all.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night. Lila,
I look
take care now.
at